Very much, Minister Jones, sir. Bob Carell, Foreign Minister Peristig Mueller, to the United Nations Special Envoy and former Prime Minister Drew Harlem Brundtland, my longtime friend, to the Premier from Greenland, Kupik Kleist, to the indigenous leaders who are here with us as well, to the scientists who have done this work and who have done such a spectacular job. Thank you very much. And Bob, thank you for playing the key role that you have played. I think I've accidentally activated this. I think I know where it is. Okay. I'm going to show a few slides as well, and there'll be a little overlap, not much. I'll skip through the ones that DURANTE and Bob Carell showed. Let me try to set the context for this report briefly. As you realize, we're not talking here at this meeting about the impact of the climate crisis on food insecurity, or on creating deeper and longer droughts, or bigger floods, or moving tropical diseases away from the equator toward the more temperate latitudes. We're not talking about the stronger ocean storms. We're not talking about the larger fires. We're not talking about a whole range of consequences, including the acidification of the ocean. We're just talking about melting ice. But I wanted to put it in that larger context. Ice is visible, and there's a big difference that 1 degree makes between ice and water. And that difference leads to a lot of other differences. Surfaces that are highly reflective or surfaces that are highly absorptive. Concentrations of CO2 and methane that are locked in place, and those that are released to the atmosphere. So melting ice is really important, not least because the fact that it's visible makes it easier for these scientists to communicate to lay people like me about it. 2 years ago in Oslo, not much over 2 years ago, Jonas and I talked about about his leadership of the Arctic Council. And we talked about the value in expanding the focus of that Arctic Council to include the entire cryosphere of the planet, all of the frozen regions, including the third pole, the Himalayas. 100 times as much ice and snow in the Himalayas as in all the mountains of Europe, including Antarctica, the great mass of ice on the planet, including the Andes and the Rockies and the other mountain glaciers. And Jonas Sir did a fantastic job in taking that idea, and thank you very much for inviting me to join with you, Jonas. It's been a great honor to work with you, and truly one of the finest public servants I've ever had a chance to work with. And then we had, well, I'm a recovering politician, so I can say those things. But we had the great good fortune of having this team of scientists respond and do this fantastic work. Let me show just a few slides. I'll run through these quickly here. I'll say I will. Starting with the focus on the Arctic, and again the context, the concentration of CO2 is accumulating and trapping more heat. This is another view of 2 slides that Bob showed. The North Polar ice cap in 1980 looked like this, and in 2007 it looked like this. it's hard to capture the astonishment that the experts in the science of ice felt when they saw this minimum in 2005, which meant that the amount of ice that had melted, it's been roughly the size of the continental United States, minus an area roughly the size of Arizona. Nothing against Arizona. But the amount that melted in 2005 was equivalent to an area covering everything east of the Mississippi River in the United States. Then, when the real shock to the scientists came was in 2007, when this happened. And their phrase was it fell off a cliff. And then the extra amount that melted was this much. Now this covers the area of ice. It does not cover the volume of the ice, and Bob Carell referred to this. The U.S. Naval Postgraduate School has a team that integrates the U.S. Navy's nuclear submarines that go under the ice cap and satellite measurements that are calibrated to work with it. And based on that, they said actually 2008 had a smaller minimum, probably, than 2007. And these are figures that are fresh. I don't know if they've been, I don't know when they were released, but I just got them yesterday from Dr. Vaclav Maslowski at the Naval Postgraduate School. And this is the volumetric record of the ice. And some of the models suggest to Dr. Maslowski that there is a 75% chance that the entire North Polar ice cap during some of the summer months could be completely ice-free within the next 5 to 7 years. Bob used a figure of 2030. And the volumetric analysis leads this Dr. Maslowski to make that projection. We will find out. Now, I want to set this up. Bob referred to the Arctic being a beating heart. I'm going to show you a beating heart. This is called a cardiothermogram. It's just to set up the slide that comes after. And what I'm going to show you after this is the Arctic expanding and contracting almost as quickly as this does. And when it expands, the dark blue is the winter ice, thinner, and it expands over a larger reach. And then it contracts in the summer. Now, here's the difference. This is a color-coded presentation that's designed to pick out the old, thicker ice. The ice that you see in red, as this beating heart in the next slide shows, is the so-called permanent ice, 5 years old or older. And you see each one of those beats is a year. We're now at 88 and it's going forward. And the red ice is getting smaller in amount. It's almost like blood spilling out of the body along the east coast of Greenland there. And so it's gone in less than 30 years from this to this. So on a regional basis, this means a dramatic change in the heat absorption from the sun during the summertime. And cloud cover mitigates this, but as Bob said, instead of 85% of it being reflected, 85% of the solar energy is absorbed in the Arctic Ocean. And this puts pressure on Greenland from the north. This also puts pressure on that permafrost that Bob talked about, and I'm going to show you a different view of the permafrost. We'll skip over that polar bear. You know that story. This is just for purposes of comparison, a rough approximation of the total amount of global warming pollution in the atmosphere today. But the melting and thawing, rather, of that permafrost has the potential to double the amount of global warming pollution in the atmosphere of the planet. Bob showed a slide of Professor Katie Wheeler from the University of Fairbanks. This is another one of her slides. This is a shallow lake in Alaska, and that is methane bubbling up.